Good morning, good life. You're listening to BFF Chat on Detail Therapy, episode 70.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies
Give me every little detail.
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
And now I think phase 2 is I'm going to need to take I'm only on Instagram, but I was like, I need to take an Instagram break, not because I'm comparing, but because it can suck away your day and you think you're connecting with people. And just like before COVID, you're not really. Like it's a highlight reel and it's a nice glimpse into people's reality. But if I'm spending hours of my day looking at a screen versus really taking this opportunity to look at my husband, to be with my newborn baby, like to just be present.
You just heard a little bit of my conversation with our guest today, my best friend, Sara McCain. In this episode, we will be discussing the details about how to prevent social media from impacting your life even more negatively while in quarantine, key ways to stay social while physical distancing, and a pro journaling and writing tip that will get you back into the practice, inspired by Sara's new mommy life. Before we get into it, for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. You can think of me as your number one productive lifestyle coach. I'm the director and founder of Gatlu House, a media company dedicated to helping you go after the life you want. In addition to this podcast, we produce the award-winning YouTube series Amy TV, of which I am also the host. I've authored 2 best-selling books, including Good Morning, Good Life, which now is available on Amazon. As per usual, I've been talking about this forever since December. Amazon, Audible, and Kindle, all the fun stuff. Links to everything I mentioned will be in the show notes. I guess it's no secret that this is the only thing top of mind lately, right? Like all we seem to be talking about is quarantine, self-quarantine. If we are lucky enough not to be sick, we are in quarantine. If we are sick, we are in isolation. So there's a little distinction there in case you didn't know about it. But for those of you that are struggling with this state, especially for those of you who are living alone or feel lonely, it's a really, really difficult time right now because you have to make the decision that you care more about yourself and the lives of people you've never even met being able to get through this than to satisfy your mind and your urges of hanging out with people when it is not currently socially acceptable. So for those of you who have to make that conscious decision every moment of every day, I feel you, and that is why I wanted to talk to my best friend about this, what we're doing to try to keep the balance and not go C word. We don't like the C word around here. None of us are crazy, but we certainly don't want to act like we're going crazy because we know we're not. So we're not, right? So we got to talk about some of these things that we have to do to keep that balance, to make ourselves feel better when we are stuck in the same place every day, Groundhog Day, all day, every day, and stay healthy. And I like to give a lot of tips on that, but I think we really get into it. This is a little bit of a sobering BFF chat. First of all, because we can't sit in person and do this over wine. And secondly, because what we're talking about is not easy stuff. And so, if you usually listen to this and are hoping for bright and bubbly, I mean, we definitely had a lovely time chatting, but it's still a difficult topic overall. And so I just want to give respect to that. And especially to those of you who are listening who are like, you have no idea, this is way worse for me because I'm not self-distancing. I have to work every day because I'm essential and I am a first responder and things are different for me than the rest of the world that's complaining. Trust me, we talk about that. I completely understand, except for that I am not in your situation to have to go through it. And I know that that's difficult as well. So we touch on all of those things. The struggle for everyone is pretty real, even though I definitely say in this episode that currently my struggle is not real, but it could change at absolutely any moment. Is my business up and running right now? Yes. You're listening to this podcast, so that's a pretty safe assumption. Am I sick? No. Am I an introvert who likes to stay home and gets her most amount of work done when she does? Yes. Does that mean it's going to be amazing forever? Not really. I mean, still, there is a struggle to be had in every way. So we want to talk about that. We want to get to the heart of that. We want to make sure that each of us, no matter what situation we're in right now, we can work through it together, because it is work. All of this for every one of us. It is work to do what we have to do to be safe and end up on the other side of this healthy. So that is a little synopsis of what's to come on BFF Chat. Before we get into it, I want to give a big shout out to my friends in Shine Squad at patreon.com/AmyTV. We have such an amazing community over there, and I just want to give a couple of actual shout outs to Sarah M. and Kate and Lauren Bateman and Alyssa Marie. You all, Megan Cass, you guys are all chiming in so much and sharing with the community in the community tab of Patreon, which is where the community members, the patrons, can post and ask people what they're up to. We need to stay social, guys. We can't let social media bring us down. We have to use it for what it is great for, and that is lifting us up. And that is what we do in Shine Squad. I have a new incentive for you to check this out. Actually, I have two. If you join Shine Squad and you are a part of Tier 3, which is called Shine Bright Like a Diamond, or in the new Tier 4, there are merch incentives for you to join at those levels. There is a Shine Squad sticker available for Shine Bright Like a Diamond members in Tier 3. You do have to be in the level for a certain period of time for Patreon to ship you your little sticker, but logistics, whatever. Check that out. But here's what I'm excited about. For the first time ever, your girl has got a coffee mug, and that is in Tier 4. So if that interests you, if you would like a Good Morning, Good Life coffee mug, it is now available to you if you join Tier 4 in Shine Squad. That's all at patreon.com/AmyTV. You might as well get something for your membership. So why not have it be a totally on brand, uplifting coffee mug for your good morning routine? I mean, duh, it's the best. Okay. That's all there. The links to that will be in the show notes, but we got to get into this because me and Sarah really get into the nitty gritty of staying social while physical distancing. Let's get into it. Sarah McCain is back.
Boom, boom, boom. Hello.
I feel like we have a lot of catching up to do, but if anyone is unfamiliar with the one and only Sarah McCain, this is my best friend, and this is called BFF Chat because I'm chatting with my best friend, Sarah McCain. Sarah, how have you been?
I mean, we won't even let COVID stop us from chatting. So I'm
No.
good. Some things have to stay constant.
Yeah, like friendship.
Like friendship amongst all the change, both personally and worldwide. I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know. How are you doing with it? I'm still not at the point, I think at the time of recording this, I did have to leave the house for one emergency meeting that I was a part of for a larger purpose. But for the most part, I think you just said you're on day 13. I think I'm right around the same place of self-quarantine. Nobody's sick around here, at least not now, and hopefully not ever. But how are you doing? Because I don't know that my struggle is quite real yet.
I don't know if I would even say it's a struggle. I mean, I keep seeing all these, the physical part of it's not a struggle. I should clarify that. All the memes that are equating this to a war, and I'm like, well, no, we're not getting sent away, and people are not being put on front lines. So I think that's a little insensitive. We're actually stay at our houses and sit on our couch. We can do this. I think what's getting to me is more, it's the mental game, and you kind of touched on this with a recent video of you just can't watch the news all day. Because I think that's the part that is starting to kind of tick away at me. It's not, I can handle the social distancing. My inner introvert was born for this. It's fine. I've been training.
Right.
But it's the nonstop news cycle that it's never good news at this point, and it's repeated news. So it's turning that off and kind of having to just walk away. That's the part where I'm struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I did mention that as a tip in a video because it just ends up being a recipe for disaster, just having the TV on all day long. And it's just an instinct when we're at home. Maybe we're used to turning the TV on because when you get home from work, you're like, turn the TV on, start cooking dinner, have some sounds in the house. And now when you're here all the time, it's not a good idea. And like you said, it's going to be bad news, at least right now, because the body count, sick cases and or deaths is just going to go up at this point. It's not coming down for us yet. So just not good for the overall mindset. And,
and it's also such there's something about the fact that we've never been through anything like this that I think there's a level of camaraderie with it. Like we're all figuring this out for the very first time, even the experts. Like we did not have a plan for this. Nobody did. Nobody knew something like this could really get to this level. So there's days where I look at that as like, this is universally bonding. If we're going to look on the positive silver lining side of like, we are really all in this together. But then there are days where it can be so defeating with the news cycle because there's never going to be a news story that knows exactly where this is going to go. Like there's not
100%.
like okay, well, in 3 years, this is what the world will look like. We genuinely don't know right now. And that is the part that freaks me out, I think, the most. Obviously, the body count is terrifying, but it is the unknowns.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you look at social media, you're starting to see like the faces of real people who are being taken. And then you're just sitting here hoping that you stay, but you also have no idea what's on the other side. And the fact that we don't have even a vaccine, it can be all very depressing, which I think is why, just having those continuing voices around to encourage that thought process is a recipe for disaster, because the only thing we can do right now is control the controllable. And the only thing promised right now is right now. So just being able to say like, okay, this is what's going on. I'm going to do something more productive with my day, because God forbid I were to get sick, or God forbid something would happen and this gets really big and uncontrollable in a bad way, which a lot of people would argue right now that it already has. And we're about to see that. But just being able to focus on something better than that, because why prey on this worry? It's just going to end up coming true.
Exactly. And honestly, the fact that we can control staying in, which isn't a big ask,
Yeah.
it's not like being shipped off to war. It really is stay in your house. And I get some people are in situations where that's not ideal, whether that's a toxic relationship or maybe they just
Mm.
don't have a good home to go to. I would highly encourage, I saw some great stuff out there of being like, find a friend's house you can stay at, find another place to stay. But for the most part, being asked to just not go outside is taking away a privilege, but it's not taking away a basic human right. Like people are acting like this is disrupting their entire way of being for the rest of time. And it's like, no, it'll be a blip on the radar if we do it right and we do it well and we do it together.
Right. And just to be clear, going outside is fine as long as we're staying within 6 feet away of people. Like it's just that simple. You can still get your vitamin D. You can still get some exercise, and you should take care of yourself. And it has a lot to do with saying, what can I contribute to the world? Literally reeling it in on the mindset
Yep.
that there is no FOMO situation right now. Everyone is in this together. And I know that that's hard. I think that's really hard for young people, because they're like, I don't understand. I don't understand. And you want to take like the privilege of not having to go back to school for a while, but then you miss your friends. Good. You should miss your friends. Show your friends some respect and stay home and do something else. Make a TikTok. I'm becoming a big fan of the TikTok. Do something to stay social, but you don't have to risk lives, and you don't have to see a sickness right now to know that it's potentially going to risk lives. We do kind of have to trust the authorities at this point that all of this is very bad. And Italy is looking at us and going, hey, this is really bad. So can you just like take our word for it and look at what's going on here, because you can potentially prevent what is a really terrible situation over there.
Well, and I think that's the part that I worry about a little bit on the flip side of if we do this well and we do this right, and then people leave their houses and we go back to relative normalcy, and there isn't as many deaths and stuff like that, people will be like, oh, it was a hoax, or no, that's what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to come out and have flattened the curve. Like that's,
Right.
something to keep in mind. Like ideally we will come out of our houses and there will be a difference. It won't suddenly be like, oh, all these people died. And that's huge.
Right. And yeah, it's just so much. But I think like the nice thing is that people are having to get a lot more creative about how thoughtful they are about the people in their life.
Yeah.
So you can't go see people. You can't go do happy hour. You can't even just make small talk at a water cooler right now. None of it's possible. So really continuing to keep up with the relationships that you have is so important. And especially if you know somebody who might be really in need of that outside communication. And if other people don't initiate it, might have a hard time. Just trying to remember that and just saying, hey, I can pop on a FaceTime. I can pop on all these places and let's just talk. Because I think there's going to be a lot of people who don't realize what they need in order to survive this, in order to keep their mindset right. And it doesn't mean risking it and coming in contact with people. It just means being more thoughtful about how you're communicating with the people that you love.
Well, and there's no right way to do it. I think right now I've heard some people, I don't know what the phrase was called, but getting annoyed on like social media because of like toxic positivity now. Because now people are doing too many like happy posts and, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. But I think the thing is, just because say you're a mom and have a toddler at home and you're not doing lesson plans every day, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Just because you see a million social media posts of people that look like they're doing it picture perfect, or you see friends connecting in a way that your friends aren't connecting to you, doesn't mean something's wrong with you, or you can only control how you want to be reached out to. And sometimes it's even saying, hey, like sending a group text and being like, hey, I need this today. Or like my family did a chain of being like, hey, we need to do a book club. Like someone had to raise their hand and make the request. And so like, it's just as much on you as it would be if you were face to face with somebody to make the request for what you need.
Oh my gosh, how have I not thought about a COVID book club up to this point?
I don't recommend reading a book that is pandemic based.
No, I also don't recommend that. But oh my gosh, what a great idea. I mean, because I think there's so many people who are thinking about reading more and they keep saying it. But here's a thought that occurred to me, which could circle back to that. I think this is worth discussing. I didn't see the thing that you were saying about toxic positivity. However, this is definitely a moment where we need to pay attention to our tendencies with social media and how addicted that we are with them. I guess like this is something I know, but again, you know how you know something, you need to hear it again and again. I just had this huge epiphany that now more than ever, if you are overly committed to paying attention to social media and you are relying on how it makes you feel all the time in order for you to figure out how you feel, which, spoiler alert, is usually going to make you feel less than good because you're looking at what everybody else is doing. And even in someone's own house, they seem to be having a better time than you and look better and be doing all these things. Now more than ever is that going to be a danger, especially if you have been dismissed from school, you have no other projects to work on, you're not reading a book, you're not doing something better than binging a Netflix series, and you're just incessantly scrolling. This is going to be a really dangerous situation because now you're stuck in one space and there's not a real way to physically get out of that addiction. And I think that that's a major point there.
Oh, yeah. This morning I was thinking, because like phase one for me was a couple days ago, I was like, I'm done watching the news. And now I think phase two is I'm going to need to take I'm only on Instagram, but I was like, I need to take an Instagram break, not because I'm comparing, but because it can suck away your day.
Yeah.
And you think you're connecting with people. And just like before COVID, you're not really. Like it's a highlight reel and it's a nice glimpse into people's reality. But if I'm spending hours of my day looking at a screen versus really taking this opportunity to look at my husband, to be with my newborn baby, like to just be present,
Yeah.
I'm wasting it. Like I need to find the positive. And part of that is saying like, I will never get this time again. I mean, for me, it's like an extended maternity leave. And I need to not just be scrolling, because scrolling is almost as bad as just the news absorption. It's the same thing on repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm finding I'm in this situation right now because TikTok has become so much fun to me. I didn't understand it before. It's becoming an obsession only within the last 48 hours. So this is a hot moment. But I do recognize it so quickly. And the other thing is that I refuse to look at it during the day. I think the upside to this is like, I just have a million other things to do. I keep doing the newsletter with my assistant, Megan, and she's like, what are you watching? Because we always have like this list of things about me at the bottom. And one of them is, what am I watching? I'm not watching anything. The last 48 hours I've been watching TikTok because I was like, I think I need to join now. It's officially a thing. But I'm not watching Netflix. I'm not watching movies. I'm barely watching any YouTube videos other than reviewing my own. I think the powerful thing in that is when you do find your purpose and you're following your mission, there's a lot of stuff to do then. You're really consumed with the why of that. And that's, I think, what a lot of people aspire to. And that's what I'm really hoping people will figure out here. I got a little lecture-y in my latest video, or a recent video, depending on when you're listening to this, about, the excuse, I don't have time. And up until this point, everyone was saying that, right? It'd be really interesting to hear someone say these days, I don't have time. I mean, I can put that in a certain context, but thinking about your normal life, you talk about the things you want, talk about the things that you hope for, talk about the things that you aspire to, and that someday you hope to have time, but right now you don't have time. And every literally person on the planet right now is being given this like moment in time. It could be a couple weeks, or it could be a couple months, or it could be a year. We don't know where this is going.
Right.
You're being literally given the gift of time. Now, I think a lot of parents would argue to the opposite, and you can definitely discuss that with me in terms of, listen, I haven't been given time because my daycare was taken away and all of these other things that allowed me to have mind space. That's fair. But there are still things that you can do to observe time for yourself. You may just not be doing them because we're a little early in this process. We're all being thrown for a loop right now, and we aren't. But we've all been given this time, and we can take it if we want. The things that we can safely do from quarantine, we can now do, and that excuse is gone. And that's what I'm really hoping people will start thinking about when they're incessantly scrolling and they find they're not thinking positively about themselves. You're not your thoughts. Step away from the thing that's making you think that you are. And what is it that you wanted to do?
Well, and I mean, I think it's also kind of like the challenge of putting quarantine a little bit on its head of we were such a digitally connected society before this anyway. So for the most part, everyone still has access to everything they were doing before quarantine. And you may have spent just as much time at home. You maybe just weren't as mindful of it. Like now it's a moment because you can't have those many distractions, or maybe you're not going out to eat, or you're not going on an errand just for the sake of an errand. How are you going to reset the clock? Like, I think it's a cool way to kind of like, you can make, and I know a lot of people have been like, it feels like one really long day, or I can't decide what's morning and what's night, or when I put on my evening leggings. But you could totally make time what you want it to be. Say you are more of a night owl, but your job for the longest time wasn't letting you be that way. Embrace it now. And maybe like turn your clock a little differently. Make the routine what it needs to be for you so you don't have that excuse. But you
Yeah.
still have access to everything you had before, except for going out and maybe going like to and from work. But you have access. The internet's not down. You still have access to call people, FaceTime people, connect with people. It's just how do you want to make it look?
Yeah, I think that's so true. And it actually makes me want to, if anyone's listening to this and they're considered essential, I just want to say thank you to you. I just got off of another call this morning. I'm on the Central Ohio Transit Authority board, and people who drive the bus are essential. They still have to go to work. People running the bus company, they have to get there and make sure it's operating well. And they have to make sure that all of transportation is operating well in the area. If you are delivering groceries, if you're delivering food, if you're stocking the shelves, Amazon, there's so many people that are essential, and they're still. So when you sit here and you say, I'm in self-quarantine because I'm not essential at the moment, in whatever context you want to put that, it's amazing how much we have access to because we're still being fed. We might still be overbuying toilet paper for whatever reason, but we're still being fed. And most of us still have the privilege of internet and electricity and these things. There's probably some things we don't like about our life that are now under a microscope because we're there all the time, but we're doing okay.
You're absolutely right. Like the praise that needs to go to the doctors and nurses is amazingly huge. But also I keep keeping in mind, like I've had a few calls with my baby's pediatrician just for unrelated things, but I'm thinking the receptionist who's answering the phone and calling. Like
Yeah.
there are still people that are having to go to work and leave their families, and they've got anxiety, they've got fear, and they're out there still doing their job. And there's so much that's still running because of that. And so I think you're so spot on. Even the people that are just like dropping off your food delivery or any of it, it's incredible.
Yeah.
They're now in a position where they're choosing to go out and like they have to because they have their job, but they're also every day waking up and knowing that there's a risk and they're still doing it. And that's keeping us all going. So I
Yeah,
think when complaining about being stuck at home, it's an important reminder.
absolutely. So, like we were saying before, I think that the big thing here, and there's a number of things you can do, regardless of if you're a first responder or if you're essential or if you're at home and you're just feeling a little lost. Regardless, introvert or not, we do need to keep things a little bit more social. We need to keep in contact with the people that are lifting us up and making us feel better, or at least making us feel a little bit normal. I'll give you an example. We were, trying to figure out a way to celebrate my parents' 25th wedding anniversary. Now, if you're wondering why is their 25th, if everyone knows my story, they know that my stepdad adopted me when I was 12. And so, but we were celebrating the anniversary and we were like, what are we going to do? And we just decided, you know what? Quality time is really the love language here. Okay. If we just all get together and show our parents some love, like that's good. And so we all just jumped on a Zoom call. And it just surprised our parents that we had all joined a Zoom call. Like that was the most grand gesture in the world. But something so small like that just made us feel like we were together. And we did a little toast and we talked and I showed everybody our new dining room table. Like, it was just kind of silly, but a little bit of breaking up the day like that goes a long way. I think Zoom calls, Skype calls have been super, FaceTime calls, group FaceTime calls. Good thing that was invented, right? Like I feel like those have been coming in handy lately.
Downloaded app, I'm sure.
I know.
No, same thing though on Saturday. A group of our friends, I think there were 10 of us total, 5 couples, wanted to have a game night. So we all got on, a hangout. My husband became a game show host, which now we may never be.
He's so good in that role, by the way.
Yeah. He just needed an excuse to suit up. But I honestly feel like, because by the time the call ended, I think we'd all been on for like 4 hours almost. And we probably talked more in that Google Hangout than we would have had we gone to dinner and a game night at someone's house, because in those situations, people, pop in and out more, or you get in sidebar conversations. Like it literally kept all 10 of us actively engaged with all 10 of us in a way I don't think we've ever done. And I was thinking about that the next day. I was like, wow, we all stayed present in the same conversation versus like the women sidebarred or the husband sidebarred. So that's
really true. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. The fact that it's like you really, especially with Google Hangout, the way that the camera kind of moves to whoever's talking, like you're really paying attention to every person that's engaging in the conversation, because you literally can't have a sidebar conversation. If you guys wanted to have separate hangouts, then yeah, you totally could. But we were all immersed. And the pressure, I think, is a little bit on in that situation with a big group like that. It was just like, okay, we got to keep the ideas coming. So it's great it's like, we'll totally go down a sidebar. But at the same time, it's like, okay, what's the next game show question? Because we're trying to find that next thing to grab onto all together.
Yeah, but I think that is community building, and I'm sure we'll do it again. And we could even go bigger and play an actual board game that we all own and just roll the dice. But I think it's those little things. I've done, a lot of FaceTime happy hours with friends, but beyond just like the FaceTime or the Google Hangout of it, I do think it is just maybe even sending a random checking in text to someone you haven't talked to in a while. Like you were saying earlier, it's like think through the people in your Rolodex mind who might be struggling with this and might just need to say like, hey, thinking of you. You don't need to send something over the top or redundant, or just like, what does a day look like for you? I remember the other day you asked me that, like, what's your daily routine right now? It's like, do I have one? Huh.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think just it's amazing. Over the weekend, I was kind of catching up on my little networking texts, and I was just looking for people I hadn't talked to in a while. And I was thinking to myself, this is the easiest time in the world to do any networking because people are available. Like I was literally sending text messages to different types of colleagues I've met over the years, or people I know better than people I don't, just like totally random different people. And I sent these messages and I was getting responses back within 5 minutes, because usually you wouldn't. People are busy. Whether I sent an email or whether I sent a text, I was getting messages back on Sunday very quickly. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. But I think it was really cool that it was like, I could just say, hey, I hope you and your family are safe and healthy right now. How's it going? Because literally everyone's thinking that right now. It's the easiest point of entry to start a conversation in the world. You cannot go wrong with it. And you probably genuinely feel that way because if you're sitting there going, what can I do today? You probably don't have a sick relative and you are probably of good health and are thinking, that's good. That's really excellent for me. Let's make sure that's the case with everybody else. And if not, please give me something to do to help you out. How can I help? Like anything I can do from over here.
Well, and honestly, sometimes it might be something completely random, or like we even put, we reached out, we moved because on top of all the change in the world, we moved into a new house right before quarantine. So it's really a great time to get to know the neighborhood. But we were like, we can't go and knock on neighbors' doors. So we put notes in our neighbors' mailboxes because we know they're both older than us. That's all we know, but we know they're older. And
Right.
like, is there anything I can do for you? Like, these are
That's
our
so
cell
nice.
numbers. But like, there is ways to build a community, or you were sharing with me around your neighborhood where they put, shamrocks and windows around St. Patrick's Day for the kids to see on walks.
It was so cute. They were like, we want to engage the kids for this holiday, even though it's a little risky to hang out and, pass 4-leaf clovers to each other. So let's just go count how many shamrocks you see in windows. And it's just like, that's so fun that people who live in the neighborhood would want to do that so that the kids have something to see. It's something I wouldn't have even thought of probably for a multitude of reasons, but just hearing about it was like, this is great. Like we have to get more creative. And I think that's the difference between the people who are going to deeply struggle with this and the people who don't, because I don't think it's a line between introvert versus extrovert. Everyone loves to say an introvert loves to stay home. I mean, like I'm feeling it. Like I'm good. I got so many things to do. But I'm also reaching out to people because I know I need that social connection so I don't go crazy. But I don't think an extrovert is necessarily going to struggle in this situation if they set some kind of clear goal or at least clear activity that would sort of fill their cup in that way.
Yeah, and I think sharing whatever activity that is, like with each other. Like if you figure it out, like it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, we don't have answers for any of this. But if you figure out a secret code of what's filling your cup, share it with your community so then it might register for someone else.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
do you feel like, have there been days for you that you really feel like, because obviously you are a very positive person and you do help a lot of us. You help me certainly a ton. But have there been days where it's been harder for you?
Um, I think that I can't really say. I'm not going to sit here and go everything's fancy free. Like it's not. Like everything's not fancy free. I'm obviously very concerned for the world. I think that's what makes every day difficult. It's also difficult just because I want to be there for people in my life, and my business is not shut down yet, but my sister's business is about to because she's a daycare owner. So really grappling with that for her, I think that was a hard day because it was trying to find the right words to share with the parents about what are we going to do? How are we going to go about this? At what point do you have to shut down? Because she's very much an essential business. There are first responders who need their kids cared for. And at the same time, it's risky to do that. So that was kind of difficult. But I think the biggest difficulty comes, and this is probably relatable for most, is that when you work from home, whether you've been quarantined to such or not, the days of the week just don't really matter. And at a time like this, they don't really matter. I think it's all hands on deck on a lot of levels. So sometimes I'm like, okay, I feel like I probably need to take a break from work that I haven't given myself. I love what I do. So it doesn't happen very often where I'm worried about my life or my mindset, but I do think that you have to pace yourself so that is not the case. I can't keep track of the days. That's pretty much it. Is my staff working? Oh, okay. It must be a weekday. That's pretty much where I'm at this point.
Right. And like you said, maybe that, and your work fills your cup. So I also think that's a level too,
Yeah.
where, it's okay maybe to work on a Saturday or Sunday, one, to pass the time, but two, because you genuinely enjoy what you do.
How has it been going? We have barely brushed over this. So just as much as you're comfortable, you've had a baby since the last time you were on the show. So that's a huge development. But how has it been different because like your husband was on paternity leave and I don't think he ended up ever going back. So I don't know if that's an element or the fact that just your family can't come around to see the baby. What element of that is
There's a lot of people that I wish could see her right now. No, I last Monday or a week ago was when he was supposed to go back to paternity leave. So definitely strange. He's working from home right now, which he's never done before. So like that's an added
Mm,
element. I think that's the thing for most people. There are a lot of jobs that are easy to transition to work from home, which we're fortunate as a society that can do that. And like you said, right now, what he does is still um, up and running, and we're both still fortunate to have jobs. But I know that's not the case for everybody, so I do feel grateful on that, but it's definitely kind of I was all mentally prepared for last Monday to be a single parent during the days and then, share with him when we got home at night over dinner. And now it's like, well, he goes into the office and we still share at dinner what we've done with our days, but we mostly still see each other throughout the day.
yeah.
And he knows when our daughter Grace is crying, so can't really hide these things. But it's definitely the sense of community isn't I didn't realize how much I was appreciating it for the first 5 weeks of her life. And it was just small things like my mother being able to come over for a coffee in the afternoon and hold her while I ask my mom's questions about motherhood. We
Mm,
don't get to do that anymore. Or just seeing friends on the weekend and, seeing everybody hold her and have so much love around her was so humbling. And I was really living for that. And now it's like, oh, it could be 2 months before people see her again. And,
mm,
that's for her safety and theirs. And I get it. And it also makes me sad if I think too much about it because, I want people to be a part of her life constantly, not just because it's, harder to do things alone, but because it's just amazing to see how much love a baby can bring out in other people.
yeah.
So that part has been a little disheartening, and I kind of just have to mentally tell myself I am just on maternity leave, nothing's happening, and people are just really busy. no,
Yeah.
no one has time right now because otherwise,
That could work for a little while.
yeah, it
That could
works
work.
most days. I'm like, oh, everyone's work days are just so busy, I can't connect with them today. Uh, but I know I have days where I'm really grateful, though, that she isn't older and I don't have to explain this to her because my heart does go out to parents that have
Yeah.
to explain to their little kids why they can't see a friend or why they can't see their nana or, why their parents are stressed out and scared of germs because a little kid doesn't totally get that. And so I hope that, when she enters toddler years and that we get there and everybody's healthy and safe and sound, we don't go through this again. And I think that's my real fear at this point is if as a society we don't wake up and learn, will this just get repeated? But for
Yeah.
the most part, it has been an amazing journey becoming a mother to go positive for a second. But it is an interesting thing to kind of be in a house all day with a newborn and not really know when she'll really get to see the world again. Like we go out on walks and we wave at our neighbors 6 feet away from us. Uh, but it's not like I'm walking over and getting to know people or building this community around her that I expected to build.
Yeah. I have to say, just on that note, on that positive note, I feel like you're crushing the mom thing. Like you're making me have a lot of faith.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll take that as a
I,
compliment. On
you should take it. I mean, like, because this is such a life-changing thing. The only thing I am sad for you about is that there are going to be so many babies born in about 9 months from now. And I think we talked about this. You might end up having Grace accidentally classified as a coronallennial or whatever the heck they're calling it.
I am making sure I am journaling every day. My mother-in-law gave me a great idea before all of this madness, just when you have a baby in general. Not getting like the fancy baby book. I still got one of those too, but having just a bunch of notebooks around the house. And even if it's the most mundane day of like, you're just on a 3-hour cycle of like, poop, sleep, stay awake for a minute, repeat, feed, whatever, writing down what you did that day so that, in the future you can share it with your kid if they want. And it was kind of cute. My husband, who's 34, we were looking through the ones she wrote. And so I've been in that pattern of writing. And so now it's gotten an interesting level of like, I'm kind of writing about being in quarantine with her. And so I'm like, this will be an interesting time to retell to her in a couple of years and capture it.
I am obsessed with that tip right now. I need to make sure that this just goes on the record. You just breezed over it. Because right before this crisis, I ordered a bunch of Mead notebooks. Like, remember the old, like, college ruled Mead notebooks? I was like, you know what? I'm sick of feeling like every time I write something down in my brand new notebook, I'm like, I'm doing something to something that's so beautiful. So I'm like, that's my bullet journal. I've gotten past that with, but other journals, like I will only want to write something in it if it's really important. And then I might still use pencil. So I was like, no, I'm going to buy a bunch of neat notebooks. That is such a good tip to not only make sure you are practicing writing, but to start documenting more, placing notebooks around the house, strategically placing. So it's not like clutter, but to have a bunch of them so that you'll just write things down and you'll start getting things out of your head when you have ideas, or if you're documenting something funny that happened, or you have a funny joke. You don't have to have your phone on you to do that. In fact, when you open your phone to go into your notes app and write something down so you don't forget it, you probably forgot and ended up in TikTok for 2 hours. So
Exactly. And even if
love
you're
that
writing in
tip.
the notebook, say you have a notebook by like your bathroom or by the front door and you have a moment of anxiety about the world, write it down and practice letting it go when you write it down, or like practice not judging the thought and then walking away. Because I think that's also been my perfectionist side at first with this journal idea for my mother-in-law. I was like being so type A about how I wrote. And I was like, oh, if one day Grace reads this, I want her to know her mom was so eloquent. And then COVID happened. And I was like, well, I'm just going to write down anything. So I was like, this might not all be appropriate for a baby book, but it's like, well, this is the chapter she was born into. So I'm just going to kind of be real about it. And so that has been a major outlet.
I just love that because you can still curate that. If you go back and you scan all of that writing into like an Evernote and you just put it in different months of her life. And so you can always go back and look to see, like what you said, the digital revolution makes it possible for us to not have to be super perfectionists in our baby journals or in any journal for that matter. I finally got to that point with my morning pages too. I was like, literally every single entry of my morning pages starts with how I slept the night before. It is what it is. It's just me analyzing that. But to your point, you've just got to deal with the thought, get it out of your head. I don't know a lot about anxiety. I think maybe you have more experience with that than I do, but
on it. I'm here.
I just know that it's so easy to let a thought overtake you.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that I've gotten good at dealing with it. I just, for whatever reason, I can only name one time when I felt like I was maybe having an anxiety attack, and it was just a culmination of things. And so for those people who deal with it a lot, I think that's probably maybe a helpful piece of advice that you're sharing.
One of my anxiety tips, if you do journal about it, is genuinely like kind of like your bullet journal. Just put them down as bullets, like 5 anxiety points, and then kind of walk away for a few minutes, then come back and look at them through a fact lens and be like, okay, say one of the anxiety points I wrote down would be like, I'm afraid that tomorrow I will wake up and the world won't exist or something. You come back in 10 minutes, especially even in COVID, this is true. The world, you will wake up tomorrow. Odds are very high on that. Like, especially if you're just in your own home and going to sleep. So odds are very in your favor. So then you write across in a different color pen the fact. So you kind of challenge every thought. But you have to do it when, like, you have to have gotten it out in the moment. And then when you come back, you have to be willing to just be like, okay, take myself out of my head. And if I were a friend and a friend had written out all these bullets, how would I challenge each bullet? And you kind of just put them down face to face. And then you're like, okay, what is something that I can actually control? And what is a real fear? And what is something that is completely like, you write down the sky is green. You're like, well, no, the sky has been blue pretty much every day of my life. So I can challenge that one and put it this way.
That's a really, really good practice. I love that because it reminds me of it's similar in thinking, right? Like just our assumptions about what we are capable of or not capable of, success we want, and convince ourselves we can't have. And, just asking somebody, okay, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then you give an answer. And then if you're asked back, okay, and then what? And you just keep answering that phrase, that question. Okay, but and then what? Where do you end? Like, what is the end of all this? And then maybe even really zeroing in on that and saying, okay, this is the absolute worst case scenario. If all of those things happen, how likely is it? Do you actually believe the words you're saying or writing down? And where can we start to change how we think about this? Because we're really trying to rationalize, like, what is the likelihood of this actually happening? I think that's an excellent exercise.
Well, and with my therapist, because love therapy, highly encourage.
Yeah.
There have been times where it's like, okay, play that out. That's the absolute worst case scenario. Like it came into play a lot when I would think about having like the actual labor part of having a baby. It's like, okay, so imagine what the absolute worst case scenario is in your head. And then maybe if it makes you feel better, plan for that. Like once you've pictured it, you can usually come up with elements of it you can control. So like if I was totally scared of just labor as a whole, because there would be times I'd look down at my belly and be like, you have to come out.
How's this going to work?
No, but like, I don't know how to teleport you out, and I've been told you are coming out. And then I would take situations like I would go into my doctor the next time and have like 10 questions that I'd really well thought out of like, okay, this is what I think I can control about birth. This is what I know I can't. And like, where is something I haven't thought of, and asking the expert to help get me there, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it's those points too of like, okay, maybe you can't shut your mind off and you are going to go to worst case scenario all the time. Well, don't just stay in worst case scenario. Then think of like, what's a solution to worst case scenario?
Right.
And then you feel a little bit more powerful, and odds are like 99% worst case scenario is not even going to happen, but then you at least feel equipped for it.
Yeah. And hey, you wrapped your mind around it. And then when it happens, you don't have to act surprised. You're like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. I've been preparing for it.
The baby did come out. So like, but
um,
I'll tell you that. But the other thing is, like you were saying, like finding a partner or even a friend that can then do the then what questions. Or my husband, my mom used to do this for me, and then I roped my husband into doing it. Sometimes I will go up to him and I'll be like, hey, I just need a reality check. This is what my mind is doing right now, and I'm going down this rabbit hole. I need you to reality check me that, like, don't tell me I'm crazy. That's never helpful to tell a wife.
no,
But
we don't use that word.
but tell me, you know, like, what's the reality, you know, and bring me back into how you see the world for a second.
I love that. I love that. Okay, well, I want to end on a high note because that was a high note in terms of application and action. I hope people take that into consideration. But what I liked this. I think, did you ask this on the game night the other night? It was what do you hope to do with the time that you have because of the situation that we are in now? I'll answer the question for you just in case, but I think that you're probably just really working on being Grace's mom, and that is more than enough. But if there were something else that has crossed your mind for this time that we have, what has it been? What do you think you're going to do while you're in quarantine?
Turning my own questions on me.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, I think the basic is day to day keeping her alive, but I'm trying to remind myself to give myself grace, pun intended on her name. Really, if she ever listens to this, did not mean to name her something I could make so many puns off of. That is just a blessing and a curse.
Okay, wait. But first, before you answer, I have to call out the fact that her name was so perfect because your word of the year was grace. And then it was like, oh, you didn't even realize you picked your word of the year.
No, I really took that word of the year exercise you give us literally. 2019, January, I was like, my word's going to be grace. I'm going to have more grace with myself. Flash forward to end of May. I'm pregnant. Oh, I love the name Grace. Did not put two and two together.
You're consistent. I mean, that's it.
I think it was last December, like 2 months before she came out, you were like, you realize your word is your pregnancy. And I was like, what? No, I'm a very literal person. I don't even remember what I've even picked for this year's word, but I can guarantee I'm not pregnant again. So
there you go.
Yeah, that is insane. But I think it's what I hope to do, whether we're in this situation for 2 weeks, 2 months, even longer, which I know people don't like to say out loud, but no matter what the span of time is, I am really working on giving myself grace. And that for me looks like being a lot less judgmental, because I think I have started to question, like, what is my purpose? Am I doing enough beyond just being a mom right now, and kind of being more kind with myself. So that has shown up in not judging my writing and just writing for the sake of writing. And that has shown up in not judging if I don't go on a 5-mile walk that day. But I'm going to get outside, and that's the box, So that's what I'm hoping to be on the other side. And I'm also hoping on the other side, I feel even more confident in my marriage, because I feel very fortunate that, like, I'm in quarantine with this man and that I love him very much. But I feel like it has put parenthood and new parenthood on speed. So
Yeah.
I think on the other side, I will be very grateful that I had a partner in this.
Love that answer. I'm just going to work on some Italian words. I'll report back.
Yeah. I don't believe that's true. I feel like it's a lot more than that.
Okay, well, stay tuned for an update about that. We shall see if I'm working on anything. I posted my first TikTok today. That's what I'm working on.
And I think those are going to be game changers. And it's going to make me download TikTok just to freaking watch you. I don't think I will do any TikToks, but
If you could just follow me and like my TikTok, it would mean a lot.
I mean, how many do you hope to accomplish?
I have 4 in the can right now. So I've only posted 1 so far. I'm waiting to see how I feel. So far it's been a warm reception, so I'm thinking I'll shoot at least for a second one here in the next couple of hours, because quite frankly I'm addicted.
I mean, honestly. And I think, quite frankly, it's making me feel like it's what I want to watch. Because like you, I'm not really putting the TV on. So you're giving me an
Right.
You know?
I'll take a 15-second video any day. Okay?
I thought I had a longer attention span in social distancing, but maybe I don't.
We're just too productive. So we're like, oh, no, you don't understand. Like, not only did I do all of these things, but I also watched like 80 videos on TikTok. So I'm doing great.
I'm reading 2 books right now that are very overdue at the library. I think there's a grace period on this.
I think there's definitely a grace period.
But
no pun intended.
I feel very good that they're just fiction books. So
that's good. I've been into memoirs lately. I blame you for that, but it's been good.
Most welcome. And that's a nice thing too with Kindles and like all those or you're just downloading online. You don't even have to go and get a book. You can find it at like any time.
It's the best. Even the library lets you have Kindle books.
I know.
It's amazing. This world we live in, you guys.
I should go on a social distancing walk soon.
Yeah.
Part, it'll be fine. We could maybe throw the stroller back and forth on wheels.
Yeah. Also, to actually formally end this episode, I think we need to change it to physical distancing, not social distancing. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, stay in touch with people. Do not go C-word. We don't need crazy, okay? No one's crazy.
We're not social distancing. We are physical distancing.
That's right. Okay, Sarah, since we're not social distancing, I'll call you after this show.
I might answer. I don't know. I've got such a busy lineup of happy hours on the FaceTime.
All right, Sarah McCain, thanks for another great BFF chat.
Thanks. I wish you were here, but I'll open wine in your honor.
Perfect. All right, let's catch the deets from this conversation. First of all, notebooks. Not fancy, but everywhere. I love this tip. Like I said, I bought a stack. It came in there was 6 of them in wrapped together from Amazon. I will link to them on Shine Squad Secrets, which is our Instagram account where I talk about all the things I love, and also in these show notes. The Mead notebooks, college ruled, just for scribbles and writing, and we don't feel like we're ruining a notebook when we open them up. And Sarah's putting them all over the house so that she can document the journey as a parent without feeling like she has to be all perfect writer girl with her quill and her glass of wine in order to document the journey with her daughter, which quite frankly is not going to be possible all the time when you're just trying to keep the house sane, right? Notebooks everywhere. Get into the habit of writing. Whenever an idea comes to you, put it down on paper. Get it out of your head. Whenever you have an anxiety moment, get that idea out of your head. Write it down. Look at it. Address it face to face instead of letting yourself think that your thoughts are you. Next, introverts and extroverts are not the differentiation of success in quarantine. Those who manage their mind and those who don't are. Introverts might be living their best life in the first couple weeks of this, but let's be honest, we are going to be chomping at the bit to see people. We still need people in order for us to be successful individuals and thrive in life, even if it's hard on us sometimes and we actually exert energy in the action. Extroverts, I know you're probably chomping at the bit, but no matter what, knowing who you are and leaning into it and being creative about how you can make yourself feel okay and balanced during this time is very important. So make sure you do that. And on that note, keep FaceTiming, but continue to physical distance because physical distancing is better than social distancing. We are not social distancing. We are staying social to the best of our abilities, not scrolling too much social so that we are too much in our own head, but FaceTiming, calls, texts, staying connected with people. It's so easy right now to just be like, hey, I was thinking about you. Are you safe? And how is your family? And is everybody healthy? everyone. You can say the same thing to everyone. This is the easiest time in the world to network. Go give it a shot and see who replies to you because they're not doing anything right now. It's amazing. Go be thoughtful, honey. All right, what tip was the best here for you? Or what topic did we talk about that was the most helpful for you? Or maybe did we not totally get there? I want to hear what you're struggling with in this moment of quarantine, in this moment of physical distancing. I'm trying to call it physical distancing. I don't like social distancing. I don't think it's the same thing at all. I want to hear what's going on in your mind right now, how you're struggling in your moment and how you're thriving. What are you doing to seek that balance? Come over to our Instagram at Details Podcast to share more. And hey, do you love getting advice straight to your earbuds? I'd love to share some simple steps for living your best life every day. And that is with my free audio training, The 7 Essential Details for Going After the Life You Want. To receive this audiogram, subscribe to the podcast, take a screenshot that you have subscribed, and then email that screenshot to hello@detailspodcast.com with audiogram, please, in the subject line. And we will get that right over to you. By the way, I'm going to start giving away more copies of Good Morning, Good Life. Signed, sealed, delivered, because we all love the mail right now, right? Like if nothing else, we trust the mailman, we disinfect the mail, and we open that mail, and we're excited about it. I want to ship you a book. If you head over to the podcast on iTunes and leave a review, if you get featured on the show, I will be reading these reviews on the show in the future. If you get featured, you will win a copy. I don't care where in the world you are. Go leave a review of the show. I want your true and honest thoughts, your true and honest stars. Pop on over there and you could be the next winner. That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Remember, subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life you want. I'll see you back here next Tuesday. Cheers.